Hey there, it's Lara here with your weekly Witchy Wednesday astrology forecast for the week of January 9th to 15th, 2019. Welcome and thank you so much as always for being here. I have a head cold. I'm gonna let you know that right away. So sorry for the tea sipping and just the nasally voice and that kind of thing. But I tried to get it together here to be here for you, and because there's lots to say, and so I'm going to kind of launch right into it. And I just want to remind you that if you follow along on Facebook and Instagram, then you will get more regular updates. And it's not about astrology, but I share some other things as well there. And so the links are below if you're interested in that. And of course, if you want to connect about a personal reading, then you can do that at my website, and the link is below as well. I really appreciate the quality of the people that engage here. My YouTube channel has not grown massively since I started it. Sort of slow and steady, and I'm okay with that. But what I do find is that, the people that are here, the people that do engage are, I really appreciate you. I feel like we're sort of doing some quality stuff here, right? And it's a meaningful partnership. That's the way I see it. So thank you for that. And you can, of course, I would love to expand my viewership and spread the word more and get my work out there. And if you're interested in helping me out, that's just, you can do that by simply liking, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, sharing, that kind of thing, right? On YouTube, also on other social media platforms as well. It really does help. But I'm about the quality over the quantity, most definitely. And so I don't mind a slow and steady build. So there's a lot to say. January is really, as I've mentioned before, giving us the flavor for the year. And as it sits right now, you may be thinking, oh, awesome. Or you may be thinking, oh my God, great. This is how it's going to be. Right? So, and that's okay. Like, we're feeling this sense of intensity, of, some confusion, maybe some kind of anxiety, and that we're not quite sure where it's coming from. Some paradox, and some struggle, like some hard work kind of thing. That's just seems like more hard work than we'd really like to be doing. But underneath all of that, or perhaps over top of all of that, there is this energy of expansion, growth, optimism, hopefulness, compassion, even dreaminess, fantasy, could be delusion, that kind of thing. And I'm going to talk about why that is. That's going to be the crux of the video, actually. So there's a lot I could talk about, and I'm going to mention a couple of small details, but I had to decide what's important here, right? And because there's so much, so I had to set some boundaries. And it's interesting because that's very much reflective of this energy in general that's going on for us, and that will continue throughout the year. There's so much to consider, but we have to set some boundaries in order to actually get anything done, right? Productive done. So what I've chosen to do here is focus on Jupiter squaring Neptune. And the reason for that is because this is an aspect or a conversation between Jupiter and Neptune that is playing out over the course of this year. And we are having the first sort of direct conversation or direct hit of this aspect this week. And then it will happen again in June and again in September. But these planets are in this dance kind of thing over the course of this year. And we'll be moving in and out of exact relationship, right? And so we're getting a sense this week of what that is going to look like overall, right, out there in the big wide world, but also in our own personal journeys. So we have a lot, like there's a lot of planetary energy shifting this month. Several planets are shifting signs. We've got 2 eclipses. We have Uranus moving direct. This is all lending to this kind of like, you know, we're going somewhere, but where are we going? Kind of feeling. And we have a Sun conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn, Mercury conjuncting Saturn in Capricorn this week, right? So that Capricorn energy continues to be very significant for us, and it will increasingly as we move through 2019 and into 2020. So we have this, as you know, you heard me mention, it's like we have all of this possibility and expansion and vision about what could be. That's the Jupiter-Neptune piece. And then we have to get real, and we have to do the work, and we have to be mature, and we have to, you know, sort of build from the ground up and take it seriously. And with Pluto there in Capricorn as well, there's this element of like, you know, what's not working is getting destroyed, basically torn down, in order to rebirth something better. And so those energies are really factoring in for all of us. So I'm going to show you the chart quickly before I get into, because I'm speaking to each of the signs at a little bit greater length in this video. I have a little bit more to say than usual. So here's the chart that I drew up for today. So this is where the planets are today. Right now we have the moon in Aquarius, but it's moving soon into Pisces later today. And then it's going to move into Aries on Saturday and Taurus on Monday. And okay, so here is Jupiter in Sagittarius, right, throughout this year. Right now it's at 13 degrees. But then right here at a 90-degree angle, that's what a square is Neptune in another mutable sign of Pisces. Neptune is at 14 degrees. And in a few days' time, Jupiter will be at 14 as well. So when I say that's that exact conversation, that's what I mean. Those 2 planets will be at the same degrees in the signs that square each other. So, and then, you know, I'll draw your attention to, once again, all of this pileup of energy in Capricorn, the South Node, Pluto, the Sun, Saturn, and now Mercury as well. So I think that's all I'll draw your attention to right now. That's the significant stuff that I want to talk to you about. So the Sun, Neptune in Pisces squaring Jupiter in Sagittarius. Again, it's this longer term influence, right? But it's exact this week. As of about the 17th of January, it will start to wane a little bit for a while, and then it will come back into focus in June, wane again, and for a final hit in September. So this overall will alert us as a collective and also as individuals in our own personal lives to some bigger picture issue that needs resolving, right? So ultimately, a square is a conversation of tension. You've seen me do this before and point this out to you before if you've been here before. So it's where 2 energies are squaring off. They're meeting up, and it's like something's got to give, right? They're at a 90-degree angle. And so there's this tension, and it needs to be resolved somehow. And it needs to be resolved in a creative way. Because if it doesn't get resolved in a creative way, then what can happen is it can kind of be destructive. It can kind of implode on itself. Because the energy has to go somewhere with a square. So we need to be proactive about it and aware, right? In order to best utilize that energy. And then when we choose to do that, then it can be really productive, very creative. And so that's the good news. With tension, you know, like obviously tension, it's uncomfortable, which causes like, it's this friction. It's like something needs to give. And so we look optimally for a creative solution to that, right? So that's what's happening with this Jupiter Neptune square. And this will impact most obviously the mutable signs, because Neptune and Jupiter are in the mutable signs of Sagittarius and Pisces. The other two mutable signs are Gemini and Virgo. So if you have planets, points, your sun, moon, rising in the mutable signs, you will no doubt be feeling this. The other signs will also feel it, but perhaps to a lesser degree. It ultimately depends on what's going on in your personal chart, right? So both Neptune and Jupiter have this spiritual quality to them. They are like, well, first of all, Jupiter and Neptune are both associated with the sign of Pisces, because Jupiter used to rule both Pisces and Sagittarius. Then when Neptune was discovered, it was assigned to Pisces. So now Pisces is the ruler of, or Neptune is the ruler of Pisces and Jupiter of Sagittarius, right? So, but they, like I said, they both have this spiritual flavor. And the difference is that Jupiter it's kind of about the more traditional. So if we think of like religion, organized religion more so, the constructs of religion, it's about our belief system and how that has been shaped by, you know, our society, the culture we grew up in, where we live on the planet kind of thing, what we were taught in our education system, or our just, you know, our society, or our culture, as I said. It's about what we sort of were indoctrinated into, if you will. So it's about our worldview, our beliefs, our philosophy. Whereas Neptune is more about spirituality rather than religion. Neptune is about lack of boundaries. It's about a connection to a higher power, something bigger than ourselves, whatever that is. It doesn't need a name necessarily with Neptune, right? Neptune is a bit elusive. It is, it's like this sheer curtain floating over, you know, reality kind of thing. You know, like I said, it's about our connection to a higher power, our connection to the all, that compassionate sense of humanity and empathy, right, that we have. And it can really have a hard time with boundaries. It's boundaryless. And so that can be an issue with this energy, is, you know, losing track of our boundaries, not having any boundaries, that kind of thing. So as I see it, this is really a time where our beliefs are going to be kind of challenged or brought into focus for us to make an adjustment, right? To work through the issues, and maybe the discrepancies, that kind of thing. And to create really a whole new way of seeing the world, a whole new worldview, a whole new way of being in it, kind of thing. So as I mentioned, you know, Neptune can have this sense of delusion, of confusion, of seeing through rose-colored glasses, fantasy, that kind of thing, escapism. And so we just have to be mindful of that energy. And one of the things that came to mind while I was thinking about this is, you know, we want to caution against trying to save the world, but losing ourselves in the process. So that's something to really consider. This is like, you know, things like religious scandals, cults, that kind of thing. We can see some things in the news about that, about delusion, about a lot about fake news. We have to be discerning. A lot of just overwhelming, over the top, right? Which we've been seeing a lot of going on. And then about like, what is this real? That's the Neptune piece, right? The Jupiter piece is like this expansion, this overwhelm, this over the top, larger than life, megalomania, is a word that comes to mind, and then it's like Neptune is like, am I really seeing this? Is this really real? Or is, maybe this isn't as bad as it appears. I'm like not seeing sort of the truth of it, or the reality, right? So, but ultimately this energy, we can use this for dreaming and visioning, fantasizing about a better, optimistic, more compassionate world, future, life, right? But then again, we have to use the Capricorn piece to ground it, to do the work, to take the steps, to be practical, to be mature about it all. And we have to realize that the things that need to change are going to change whether we're on board or not, because that's the Pluto piece. So, and I just want to remind you, it's really important to take care of yourself in the process, right? The North Node is in Cancer right now for the next, another maybe 14 months or so. I can't remember exactly. And it's there going, remember to nurture yourself and your tribe, right? That piece is so important not to lose sight of during this time. We can't lose ourselves in the process. So, as I said, we're going to feel this energy and see this energy playing out on the world stage and in all kinds of different ways, but also in our own personal lives, right? And so as individuals, this will happen. We'll feel this need for adjustment, this tension, and that can be creative tension too. Remember that. It doesn't always have to be negative when I say this, but so we're going to feel this interplay between the two houses, the two life areas that Jupiter, which is in Sagittarius, and Neptune in Pisces sit for us in our own personal chart. And so, without further ado here, we're going to go through each of the signs. And so ultimately, this can play out in many different ways. Many, many, many different ways, right? But ultimately, think about overall, where is tension kind of building surrounding your beliefs, your worldview, your boundaries, maybe your connection to spirit or spirituality? Where should your view expand or grow, without losing sight of reality, right? Without being sort of unhinged or ungrounded? How can you marry your beliefs with the bigger picture? How can you work to resolve the tension in these two life areas in a creative way that will ultimately serve your growth in a very deep, meaningful, spiritual way? So let's begin. And I want to remind you that it is the most beneficial to you when you're listening to these general forecasts to listen to your rising sign. And then you can listen for your sun sign and your moon sign if you want as well. Because when we're doing a general forecast, the way this is done is the rising sign will be the most sort of accurate. It'll be sort of what plays out in the everyday life kind of thing. How you see this play out in everyday life. And then your sun sign will give you an added layer of information. And then your moon sign it's more about sort of the inner life, the more emotional way that this energy plays out. Ultimately, if you want to be exact and specific about your own soul's blueprint, your own soul's path, how all of this will play out for you, then a personal reading is really the only way to do that, the most accurate. and insightful. So you can connect with me if you're interested in that. But let's begin at the beginning with Aries. So Aries, this is happening. What I'm going to do here, is I'm going to give you some specific examples that came to mind for me about potentially what this could look like, right? This is by no means exhaustive. It just gives you an idea because it speaks to kind of the interplay between these life areas. So Aries, this is in the 9th and the 12th for you. Jupiter sits in the 9th and Neptune sits in the 12th for you. So, excuse me. This is like tension between your belief system, right? That's the 9th house. 9th house is also long distance travel, higher education, teaching and learning, and then your unconscious, right? The unseen, your sort of your solitude, and also this can be about sort of like our unconscious patterns and behaviors, including how we self-sabotage, and on a practical sort of level, it can also have to do with issues around what we call like places of confinement, right? Traditionally, so prisons, could be schools, could be health care facilities, that kind of thing. So a few ways this, that came to mind for me that this could play out. So a trip that you take could challenge your beliefs or your worldview, or even your unconscious beliefs. So you could go somewhere, you think you kind of have a belief system about the way things are, and then you travel somewhere and you have this experience and you're like, wow, that really changed the way I thought about things in general, right? My worldview. This could be a spiritual quest, literally. A trip that involves some kind of spiritual healing, a healing retreat, spiritual retreat. Or I also see this like, this could be you traveling to another country for some kind of alternative treatment for something as well. This could be you teaching or studying abroad. So, going to another country to do that. This could have to do with some kind of spiritual education. And when I see spiritual education, that could be anything from yoga teacher training to you going to, become a minister or a wedding officiant. I don't know. Just some examples there. This could have to do with really ultimately, unconscious patterns or self-sabotage. And being confronted with or having to resolve your philosophy about that. This could be you encountering some kind of teacher or guru, right? And struggling with boundaries there, like not being discerning, thinking that this individual is going to solve it all. So just, keep your boundaries, be realistic if that kind of thing arises. So those are some examples, Aries, for you. Moving on to Taurus, this is in your 8th and 11th houses. So Jupiter's in the 8th and Neptune's in the 11th for you. So this is your intimate connections, your shared resources, your deep psyche. That's the 8th, right? That's really the 8th house. I really see this as like the sort of the most, where we're the most vulnerable in life, right? So this is squaring off with your vision or hopes and dreams for the future. Your associations with friends, friendship groups, and other groups, clubs, organizations, that kind of thing, even online groups. And so this could be like you're involved in a support group for something. It could be some kind of addiction or other issue, right? And that can broaden your horizons and shift your beliefs. Or maybe you're finding it difficult to navigate that situation. You're afraid to disclose too much, or there's some boundary issues going on there. So, be mindful of your boundaries, obviously. Or, that could potentially be very helpful and spiritually healing for you. it could be that you're, some kind of situation arises where you're faced with the sharing of resources, and that could be money, in a broader group. So maybe a group of friends are going into business together, right? Or maybe you're involved in a class action lawsuit. I don't know, this is one of the things that came to mind. I mentioned growth and healing through group support, and that can even be online support groups. And this theme of vulnerability in friendship groups or organizations is sort of highlighted here. So moving on to Gemini. Gemini, this is in the 7th and the 10th houses. So 7th house is where Jupiter sits, and the 10th house is where Neptune is sitting for you. So this is about your one-to-one relationships, right? Kind of squaring off with your public reputation, status, your relationship to authority, your career ambitions. So there's some kind of, issue that needs to be addressed there. So maybe you and your significant other are in business together, right? And there's some kind of tension there that needs a creative solution. Maybe your partner, or it could be you, decide that you're going to run for some kind of public office, right? And then that is impacting the relationship. There's this need for adjustment there. Keeping in mind, right, those themes that I spoke of at the top when we're talking about Jupiter square Neptune in general. Maybe a career advancement is going to grow your relationship, your one-to-one personal relationship specifically. This could be about your public reputation being impacted by some lack of boundaries. And that could be a lot of things. So I'll leave that up to you to think about. This generally, like, your close partnerships are squaring off in some way with your career, with authority. Could be even with like parental authority, or, the father figure, that kind of thing as well. So that's for you, Gemini. Moving on to Cancer. Cancer, this is in your 6th and 9th houses. So we've got Jupiter in the 6th house for you and Neptune in the 9th. And so this is about the daily grind, right? Your daily routines in general. Squaring off with your beliefs, with traditions, with travel plans, potentially with education, that kind of thing. So there's some kind of tension happening there, right, that needs to be resolved in order to grow, to expand, to have, a more meaningful future kind of thing. So maybe, Cancer, you're really busy on the day-to-day, right? You got a lot going on the day-to-day, and that is somehow interfering with your desire to travel, or maybe to take some kind of a course of study. And so some kind of adjustment needs to be made there. Maybe it's like you want to do it all, but you can't do it all, kind of thing. If you happen to be a teacher of some description, this could be, your own sort of spiritual self, and your need for meaning, like deeper meaning. They're being challenged by maybe, the more traditional education system. So those things are not aligning, and there's some tension there. So, what's a creative solution to that issue? This could be you being called to take a closer look at how some maybe lack of boundaries or escapist behavior, right? Some kind of escapist behavior is impacting your daily health routines. So are you coming home, like you're, coming home from work every day and chilling out with Netflix and a tub of ice cream? Not great, right? Ultimately. And you're kind of just not really, like, you're doing the Neptune thing of like, oh, it's fine, it's not that bad kind of thing. And you need to maybe bring some Capricorn reality check in there and go, okay, something's got to give here. How can I do this? Maybe, this is one thing that came to mind. Maybe you're working on becoming a travel agent this year, or a travel writer. Maybe you're going to have a book published about some kind of travel, and maybe it will even have a spiritual lean to it. So those are some potentials. Moving on to Leo. This is happening in your 5th and 8th houses, Leo. So Jupiter in the 5th and Neptune in the 8th for you. So children, creative self-expression, hobbies, those things, those themes are kind of squaring off with your intimate connections, right? Your shared resources, your deep psyche. Again, those sort of vulnerable things in life. So Leo, when I was thinking about this for you, it's like maybe your children are like super involved in activities, and you know, you're like literally having to take out a loan kind of thing to cover the costs. So, and maybe they're like, that's causing some tension. There's some need for readjustment there, right? Like, so I thought of this example of somebody with a kid who plays rep hockey. Now, I don't have a kid who plays rep hockey, but I've heard from other people that it's really expensive. And so, you know, you're having to like take out a loan or like remortgage the house or something to pay for this, right? So then it's like, well, is this really worth it? Do more boundaries need to be set here? Are we being unrealistic, over the top? What's a creative solution to this issue? Okay, so that's kind of one example. This could be your inner child, right? That is sort of calling out for some attention. Maybe it's time for some therapy in order to work through some childhood issues that are kind of lingering for you. And maybe, you know, again, the Neptune piece can have you kind of seeing through rose-colored glasses, and it's time to kind of take them off, you know, and kind of be a little bit more realistic about things there. This could be you have a child who you're thinking might benefit from therapy. This could be you work with children in some kind of psychological therapeutic way, and you're struggling maybe with boundaries there or working on your own issues, right? So there's some tension there. This could be issues around child support that you're working through. This could be you trying to figure out how to pay for your own creative pursuits. So maybe using some kind of payout you got, you know, a tax return, something like that, to start a creative business, for example, right? So working through that. So that's some examples for you, Leo. And we're going to move on to Virgo now. So Virgo, this is happening in your 4th and 7th houses. So the 4th house is where Jupiter is in Sag, and then the 7th house is where Neptune in Pisces is. So Virgo, for you, this is about your family, right? Family of origin. It's about your ancestry. It's about your sort of sense of home. It's about your literal place of living, right? About your emotional security, being challenged in some way or in this sort of tense conversation with your one-to-one close personal relationships. So, you know, there's some kind of tension going on there, and you need to seek creative, meaningful, you know, compassionate solutions, and you need to be mindful of boundaries as well. So this can be like confusion and delusion regarding those two life areas, right? So it could be like you're faced with having an aging parent, for example, and that is impacting your relationship with either that person or maybe your relationship with your significant other is being impacted by that. Like maybe you don't have enough time for both, for example. You know, there's some tension there. Like, how can we resolve this? You know, maybe you're adding an in-law suite, or maybe you're buying a house with your significant other, with a partner this year, investing in some kind of real estate. This could be about, you know, you want to do a home renovation sort of to maybe expand your living space, and you and your partner might not be on the same page, or maybe your plans are a little bit unrealistic and need to be brought down to earth kind of thing. So Virgo, those are just some examples that are going on potentially for you over this Jupiter square Neptune. Libra, for you, Jupiter is in the 3rd house and Neptune is in the 6th house. So your daily communications and your style of communicating. 3rd house is also about your peers, your siblings, your commute, as well, right? So those things are squaring off with the daily grind, basically, and your health and wellness routines. So I see this as like, one potential could be, you're inundated with emails and communications kind of thing, and they're just taking up way too much of your time, interfering with your ability to get things done on the day to day, right? So you need to seek a meaningful solution, sort of to, how to communicate your boundaries better, potentially could be involved here. Maybe working on turning off your phone for periods throughout the day, taking, communications breaks or breaks from social media, that kind of thing. This could also be your communications taking on a more spiritual flavor, right? Maybe doing some daily writing or journaling to help you work through some things. Or maybe you're in the process of writing a book, and so you need to find the time on the day-to-day to do a bit of writing every day kind of thing. This could also be, communications, like some confusion with day-to-day communications kind of thing that needs to be resolved. You might be struggling with a daily commute that's interfering with your health and wellness in some way. Like maybe you're spending so much time in the car on the way to and from work that it's impacting your health, right? And something's got to give there. So those are just some examples of how this could look for you, Libra. Moving on to Scorpio. Scorpio, this is in your 2nd and 5th houses. So Jupiter in the 2nd and Neptune in the 5th for you. So this is about your resources, including money, your values, your self-worth. They're in this adjustment phase with your kids or children that you work with, your own inner child, your creative self-expression, pleasure in general. So your resources or your finances, potentially, this is one way this could play out for you, Scorpio, could be allowing you more opportunity for artistic endeavors, for pleasure, for having more fun with your kids, for providing your kids with more opportunities even. But, it's important to watch the boundaries here and don't get in over your head kind of thing. You might be considering how much value, and that could be literally money, to place on your creative pursuits. So maybe you're financing a creative project. There's some, like, how are you going to make that happen kind of thing. This is potentially about your kids getting more expensive, right? That happens. Or you're finding more meaning, more value, more self-worth in parenting and working with kids in general, or in creativity somehow. This is like tension between your self-worth and your creative pursuits as well. So are you finding meaning in your creative self-expression, right? And is it helping or hindering your sense of values and your literal resources as well? So that's for you, Scorpio. And then moving on to Sagittarius. This is in the 1st and the 4th houses for you, Sag. So this is like about who are you, how you're perceived. It's about your physical appearance, your way of being in the outside world, squaring off with your family, your home, your sense of emotional security, potentially with, your mother or a mother figure. So like some different ways this could potentially play out for you. You are thinking about doing some kind of plastic surgery and your family disapproves. This could be you're moving out of the family home that you grew up in. You're becoming an official adult, right? So you need to kind of work on being realistic about that and setting healthy boundaries kind of thing. Your sense of self is growing, and that could be causing some tension on the home front. Like, how do you work that out? So I was thinking of a personal example here. My son is a double Sag and teenager. We got a teenager in the house, right? And so, he is trying to figure out who he is. It's that stage of like, you're not an adult, but you're not a kid. And then, the rules at home. And fortunately, so far, we're pretty lucky. But it's sort of that idea of teenager in the house kind of energy. It's about the individual, you as an individual, and then your family dynamic and the interplay there, right? So what are some creative solutions to that? And this could be a very have a very beautiful outcome in the end, right? If you really approach it with awareness. This could be you becoming a real estate agent. So that's who you are now, kind of thing, in your professional, how people see you. So those are just some ways that this could play out for you, Sag. Or, also it could have something to do with like you becoming a home organizer or a, home designer or something like that, involving sort of the home, real estate, that kind of thing. Okay, moving on to Capricorn. Capricorn, this is happening in your 12th and 3rd houses. Jupiter in the 12th, Neptune in the 3rd. So this is about your unseen life, right? That's the 12th house, your inner world, your need for privacy, your subconscious motives, your spiritual life, self-sabotage potentially. There's some tension between that and your communications, potentially, peers, siblings, neighbors, and even some kind of short distance travel involved there. It sounds like a weird mix of things, but hear me out. So this could be like you having some difficulty voicing what's going on inside with you, right? Your feelings, your deep-seated beliefs, your need for more solitude potentially, or spiritual connection or self-reflection. You're having a hard time articulating this or communicating it. And some creative solution needs to happen there. So you're kind of working on how better to communicate what's going on internally for you. And there may be some fear about how to do that or how it will be perceived, right? You could be somewhat unrealistic in your communications, or there's confusion in communications that are impacting you on a maybe an unseen level, right? So other people aren't seeing it, or maybe on a subconscious level, so you're not even really aware of it. This could be some level of communication with institutions like healthcare facilities, prisons, schools, that kind of thing. There's something going on there that needs to be worked out. This could be lack of clarity or transparency between what's going on inside and how to communicate it, right? So this could even be you writing a book on your experience with, recovery in some way. So that's for you, Capricorn. And moving on to Aquarius, this is happening in your 11th and 2nd houses. So Aquarius, this is about your vision and hopes for the future, and groups, friendships, associations, even online connections. That area of life is in a little bit of tension with your resources, with your values, with your self-worth. So immediately what came to mind here was social media, and placing either too much value on how many likes, follows, that kind of thing, as a way of measuring your worth, or perhaps growing a social media presence that can have a positive, meaningful impact, and can help grow your resources. This could be an Instagram account that's focused on self-worth. This can be issues arising with friends and money. So friends asking you to borrow money, friends wanting to go on a trip, and you're being maybe unrealistic, Neptunian, about whether or not you can afford it. It could be about some kind of group experience that can impact your money, your values, your self-worth. So joining a club or an organization, or investing in a business, even online kind of thing. So that's for you, Aquarius. And then last but not least, Pisces. This is in your 10th and your 1st houses, Pisces. So this is about your career ambitions, your public reputation, your status, your relationship to authority that is squaring off with yourself, right? So this could be like, is your career reflective of who you are and who you really want to be, right? This could be career or public growth that impacts how the world sees you and how you present yourself to the world. A total change in career direction. So you were a teacher and now you're a musician. You were a chef and now you own a restaurant. That kind of thing. This is about seeking more meaning in your career, in your public life. Struggles between what's expected of you publicly or by authority in some way and who you really are or want to be. So there's some kind of adjustment that needs to happen there. Boundaries need to be considered, right? They need to be set. They need to be respected. This could be you're up for a promotion that will change the way you're perceived, and you're struggling with whether that's what you want, or is that kind of growth ultimately meaningful to you? And this could just be getting recognized publicly for who you are, right? And so that's for you, Pisces, and that's all 12 signs. And so I hope that you found that helpful. And you might want to revisit this at points throughout the year, because this aspect is going to continue, as I mentioned. So I love to hear your thoughts. If you have a comment or a question, please leave it below. And take care, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.